Greetings, geeks, and welcome to another edition of Comic Card Crazy. Long overdue, some might say. Recently here on the YouTube channel, we were celebrating the 30th anniversary of the 13 variant covers of Gen 13. Had a lot of fun sharing those, a lot of enthusiasm and excitement, a dream fulfilled. But also, there were a lot of fun things going on in the world of Gen 13 in 1996, a year later. This iconic cover, I believe, got turned into a t-shirt. There was also the three-part Gen 13 13. Okay, so this is a literal fanboy dream where Grunge imagines going after this comic book that he really wants, and then he's in a fantasy world and all this stuff. But they broke the issue down into three different issues, A, B, and C, to tell the full story, and there were a ton of cameos from all sorts of indie comic book characters and things like that. But also that year was a series of cards called Gen 13 96. So I have a full set of the 1995 series, which there was a Chromium series of Gen 13 cards, and honestly, there were a lot of cards put out by Wildstorm featuring the Gen 13 characters. That Chromium series also had a set of sketch cards by J. Scott Campbell. These ones in particular were for the Gen 13 animated movie, designs for characters. Unfortunately, that never came out. But I am excited to open up a pack of these 96 cards and just kind of see what was going on. What were they sharing? Who were the artists who were contributing? So let's get to it. Alright, so here we are with our pack of Gen 13 96 trading cards. As you can see here, we get 8 trading cards. Would have been nice to get 13 in a pack, don't you think? Maybe that would have been overdoing it. Pretty basic here. It's not telling us that there's anything to mail away for, but it does say, collect randomly inserted limited edition chase cards, Gen alloy cards, oversized storyboard cards. So that's kind of fun. We'll see if we end up with anything like that. I don't know how you get an oversized storyboard card, though, and this pack of cards is pretty standard, but we shall see. So nice silvery pack here. All right, let's see what we got. I have not seen these cards before, so I really don't know what their style is. So obviously that first one we saw there's a Burnout looking there. That's pretty cool. He's got his thumb kind of like a lighter or a candle to light the way. Let's see what they tell us about Burnout here, with art by Dexter Vines. Burnout may be one of the lower profile personalities on the team. That's an understatement. But his particular superpower makes him highly visible in a crisis. Even in the blackest, coldest environments, Burnout can produce both guiding light and life-preserving warmth. He may be the darkest and moodiest of all the Gen 13 kids, but in tough situations, his dedication to the team comes shining through. Oh, Bobby, ever dependable. All right, so this is interesting. This was from a storyline during this series where Fairchild goes bad. Hey, why don't you have an evil Fairchild? She kind of gets hypnotized. Evil twin here by Christian Alamy. Knowing Fairchild's gentle nature and conservative style, the captured Gen 13 kids were stunned when she showed up in black suit and fishnet stockings. Holding the unconscious Lynch by his hair, the otherworldly trance had enslaved Caitlin with a simple kiss and enlisted her aid in luring her team into his clutches. Yes, indeed. All right, so it's nice to know they're pulling from the stories themselves, just with different artists. Okay, so I think I know who that's supposed to be here, because this was another thing going on at the time. Yep, Caitlin Fairchild has her father's flame red hair and green eyes, but that is where the similarities end. Alex has renounced society and chosen to live a solitary life at sea. From the day-to-day horrors of being human, Caitlin, however, retains the innocence and idealism her jaded father has lost. So this was, excuse me, something where they were trying to reconnect, because he had been keeping his distance. They finally met him in the first year of stories, and now it's like, what do we do with a distant father? All right, now this is a very creepy imagery here. You got that tattered teddy bear and a little girl in dark clothes. Let's see what we say here. So this is, with her ponytails, jumper, and teddy bear, Phobia certainly looks like a harmless little girl, but Phobia resents being called a child, and her retaliation for such an offense is quick and painful. Phobia can prey on her victims' deepest fears and transform their worst nightmares into reality, paralyzing them with fear. So she is part of that same group that kind of kidnaps and I don't know what you want to say. It brainwashes, Fairchild to be against her teammates, but yeah, she looks very different when drawn by J. Scott Campbell. Now this is interesting here. So we get Freefall and Rainmaker, but I love this concept here of Freefall needing a light, and so she's having Sarah send lightning from a tiny cloud to light her lighter. I don't know. Let's see if they've mentioned something about what's going on here. Smoking's a dirty habit. It's bad for you. It'll stunt your growth. Roxy's heard it all before. Usually she blows off these comments with an easy, casual shrug, a grunt, or an "oh please" roll of her eyes. When faced with powers like Rainmaker's, though, she can only watch helplessly as her cigarette and lighter are drenched by a mini downpour. Oh, that's what's happening. Okay, so Sarah's literally putting it all out so she can't smoke. Fair enough, fair enough. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, there they are again. They'd love to team up Rainmaker and Freefall. A little dino adventure here. Let's see what's going on here. Freefall did enjoy her first dinosaur encounter, which nearly ended her life during a mission against the Damonites, but after Voodoo proved to her that the dinosaurs could be playmates as well as predators, Roxy didn't want to leave. With Void's help, Freefall and Rainmaker traveled back in time to spend an afternoon with their newfound friends. So I think this is part of, there was a Wildstorm Rising crossover event, which I didn't read every issue. I only bought the Gen 13 issues as a completionist. Fire from Heaven. Maybe 96 was Fire from Heaven. But either way, yeah, that's interesting. All right, well, there we have Fairchild and Grunge coming at you. Again, these are all artists that I always wonder, where were they coming from to contribute to these card sets? Because you're like, well, I'd like J. Scott Campbell art or Jim Lee art but here we are with Jeff Butler. And it says, although the Gen Factor gives the Gen 13 team deadly superpowers, they are by nature a peaceful group of kids. Unfortunately, their encounters with the government, criminals, and other Gen actives usually necessitate extreme violence and widespread destruction. Their battles often leave the surrounding area in a state of smoldering ruin. Well, that is true for sure here. Especially Fairchild always seems to be throwing stuff or being thrown into stuff. All right, our last card here. I definitely remember this image. So this is not an actual panel pulled from anything, but it is a very similar to something that appeared in the comics as they were fighting a group here. So this is Elasticity. All of Fairchild's strength can do nothing against a body that stretches, rather than breaks beneath her blows. This physical advantage, along with the power to cause blackouts with a touch, makes Velena of the Order of the Cross a powerful opponent. Without the aid of Rainmaker, Fairchild might have been defeated by Velena when they first met in Rome. So there was this Italian adventure that was actually drawn by Jim Lee when they did a few issues, and that was a big deal. Jim Lee drawing comics? Or at the very least, drawing Gen 13? Because that had never been something that he had contributed to before, so that was pretty awesome. All right, well, that's the cards. Let's find out which was my favorite. All right, so a very colorful pack of cards. Lots of art, no big name artists, but still fun to get that. I do give this series a plus, just basically for having anything to do with the comics themselves, because so often, these cards are just like art and there's really nothing to it. At least this kind of hypes up some of the stories, gives you an insight into the characters, some things you might, I want to read that story about phobia and find this creepy little girl and see what she does to the Gen 13 kids. You'll go seek out the comic. That's what I always like, is the educational aspect of catching you up. But as far as my favorite, I think it's got to be this, Rainmaker putting out Roxy's cigarette and lighter. I just like that there's a story going on in the image. That's kind of fun. It's not just a general pose of the characters. And as we saw, there was lots of Roxy and Sarah together throughout this series. No chase cards, but what are you going to do? Anyway, thank you so much for checking out this video. Like I said, if you haven't gone back and seen me sharing all of the 13 variant covers for issue number 1, go ahead and check that out recently here on the channel. You can enjoy that, but there will be more to come. We're looking forward to sharing some pieces from our archives with you as well. So thank you again for listening to the podcast. Oh, did you know there's a podcast? It's not just this YouTube channel where we open cards and look at comics and review them sometimes. No, go to wizardscomics.com for over 300 episodes of Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, where we cover every issue of Wizard Magazine, interview the people who created Wizard Magazine, as well as other, special bonus videos and things like that that you can enjoy. Bonus episodes, I should say. Some of them got turned into videos. But either way, you can also find us on social media if you want the latest updates. Want to find us on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on Threads. We even have a Facebook group. Just look for Wizards, the podcast guide to comics on Facebook, or at Wizards Comics on social media. But we will be back soon enough. And hey, until then, check you later.